There was once a soil-building ingredient so treasured that, pre-World War II gardeners kept it as a guarded secret. Unlike compost or manure, it wasn't obvious. Unlike fertilizer, it couldn't be bought. It had to be prepared in a way that demanded patience, knowledge, and the right kind of soil to receive it. What's fascinating is that this ingredient didn't just feed plants, it created humus, the very foundation of fertile soil, faster than anything else. The catch? On its own, it didn't work. Farmers of the past knew it only revealed its full potential when it was introduced into untouched ground. Virgin soil that hadn't been over-farmed or stripped of its microbial life. Once those two came together, something remarkable happened. The lifeless pale soils of tired fields came alive again, darkened and held moisture like a sponge. Crops grew stronger, roots ran deeper, and the earth seemed to renew itself. The ingredient behind this transformation was moss peat, harvested from wetlands long before it became a commercial product. Back in the years before World War II, when chemical fertilizers were pretty rare, moss peat was actually considered the ultimate soil activator. Unlike compost, which is, fresh and just packed with bacteria, moss peat is ancient. It forms in bogs over centuries, layer by layer, as moss and plant matter break down extremely slowly in those waterlogged, low-oxygen conditions. The result is a material that's rich in humic substances, the very compounds that make humus stable and long-lasting in soil. When spread on soil, peat alone doesn't feed plants much. That's why, some gardeners gave up on it when they tried using it by itself. But those who blended it into virgin soil discovered its real strength. The natural microbial communities in undisturbed ground immediately colonized the peat, feeding on its carbon-rich fibers. This partnership sparked rapid humus formation, much faster than when compost or manure were added to the same soil. In effect, peat was the scaffold, the framework, that microbes used to build something lasting. Pre-World War II growers understood something modern gardeners often forget. Soil life is not uniform. Virgin soil, untouched by plows or synthetic fertilizers, teems with fungi, archaea, and microbes that are often missing in overworked beds. When peat was introduced to this environment, those native organisms activated it. They unlocked the complex humic compounds, stabilized them, and wove them into the soil structure. Without virgin soil, peat was slow, inert, and honestly, kind of unimpressive. But with virgin soil, it became a humus-building engine. This is why farmers of that time were so selective about how they used it. They didn't spread it randomly. Instead, they targeted struggling patches of land near healthy forest edges or meadow soils, places where untouched soil life could merge with the peat and spread. The transformation was undeniable. Compost decomposes quickly, releasing nutrients but also vanishing from soil in a year or two. Moss peat, once activated in virgin soil, formed humus that endured. It bound soil particles into aggregates, giving clay more breath and sand more water-holding power. Crops planted in these enriched soils seemed to find balance, neither starved nor overfed, and remarkably resistant to stress. Old accounts describe soils treated this way as living earth. This was an exaggeration. Humus acts like the bank account of fertility. It stores nutrients, buffers pH, and shelters microbes. And peat delivered that bank account balance almost immediately when matched with the right soil life. The widespread use of peat as a soil improver peaked just before the Second World War. Farmers across Europe, especially in regions near boglands, harvested and cured moss peat each year. It was light, easy to transport, and unlike manure, free of weed seeds. In fact, peat became such a staple that governments encouraged its use when chemical fertilizers grew scarce. But after the war, industrial fertilizers took over. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium in bags promised instant results, and, well, few had patience for materials that worked with microbes over years. The knowledge that peat required virgin soil to truly shine was largely lost, overshadowed by the convenience of chemicals. By the mid-20th century, peat was reduced to a potting medium, stripped of its historic role as a humus builder. The question for today's gardener is, how can we bring back the peat virgin soil method in a sustainable way? Modern bogs are delicate ecosystems and harvesting peat on a large scale is damaging. But the principle behind it is still useful. Peat's humus-building power came from its stable carbon and its ability to partner with fungal-rich soils. So today we can actually replicate this by using partially decomposed plant matter, forest duff, or even biochar, blended right into healthy, undisturbed soils. If you do have access to a small amount of peat, or maybe a sustainable alternative, the method really stays the same. You want to mix it not into depleted garden soil, but into areas that are already rich in microbial diversity, like compost-rich patches, shaded woodland edges, or soils that haven't been stripped. This union, sparks the same humus-building reaction, stabilizing soil way faster than compost alone. One reason peat worked so well in virgin soils is that it gave fungi a perfect habitat. Its fibers allowed mycelium to run through like threads in a tapestry. Once fungi colonized it, worms followed, feeding on the microbe-rich material and pulling it deeper into the soil. The result was a dual engine of decomposition fungi breaking down the peat and worms cycling it through their castings. Together, they created humus that transformed soil texture within a season. This relationship is worth recreating today. In your own garden, when adding fibrous materials like shredded bark, leaf mold, or peat substitutes, aim to pair them with microbe and worm-rich soils. Don't just toss them into a sterile bed. Place them where life is already thriving, and they will amplify what's there. The real secret behind this pre-World War II ingredient wasn't just the material itself, it was the wisdom of pairing it with virgin soil, respecting the role of natural microbes and fungi. That lesson is even more valuable now. Modern gardening often treats soil as an empty container waiting to be filled with fertilizer. The old method reminds us that soil is a living system, and that inputs only work when they interact with the right biology. When you garden with this mindset, every amendment becomes more powerful. Compost isn't just food, it's a microbial inoculation. Mulch isn't just a cover, it's a fungal habitat. And peat wasn't just organic matter, it was a spark that lit up the hidden engine of virgin soil. The story of moss peat is a story of patience, biology, and forgotten wisdom. By itself, it seemed unremarkable. But when mixed with virgin soil, it created humus faster and more effectively than compost, leaving behind a legacy of fertile living earth. While we must garden responsibly today and protect peatlands, the principle remains timeless. True soil health comes from pairing stable organic matter with the living microbes of untouched ground. Bringing back this mindset could help modern gardeners rebuild soils that last, not just for one season, but for generations. If this kind of rediscovered gardening history inspires you, subscribe to Hydrohaven and share this guide with fellow growers. Together we can keep alive the nearly forgotten knowledge that transforms ordinary soil into something extraordinary.